We're so glad you've tuned in. This is the Retirement Education Hour. I'm Megan Mozak. I'm back with financial instructors Kirk Cassidy and Dr. Paul Metler for another terrific hour where we talk about the importance of making sure you're educated on all points retirement planning. There's a lot to know. There's a lot to understand. And we try to break that down for you here on the show. And throughout the program, we are also telling you about a way you can continue this education. And that's with the Retirement Education Foundation's courses on retirement planning. These are held at major colleges and universities right in your community. We'll let you know how you can reserve your very own seat. Want to get back here, though, with Kirk and Paul and dive into a fantastic topic as we talk about mistakes that we make that sometimes can be very impactful, and there are others, they don't matter as much. But those impactful mistakes, when it comes to your retirement, there might not be a do-over. So Kirk and Paul are going to talk to us about that so that you know which ones to avoid, to steer clear of. And it's all about the more you know. And speaking of the more you know, if you want to listen to this show again or maybe browse through our other shows in our library, you're welcome to do that. This program is able to be found wherever you discover your podcasts, your favorite podcasts. Simply search for the name of the program and you'll be able to find this very show. So Kirk, Paul, great to be back with you. I do want to talk about this idea of mistakes when it comes to our retirement planning because, boy, there are no do-overs when it comes to retirement, right?
There aren't. And I know we've done many shows like this before, right? And at the core, we're a charity trying to help people avoid these mistakes and have a better retirement that they otherwise would have had without our radio shows, our TV shows, our podcasts, and our 8-hour almost master level courses that we're teaching at universities. So I know Paul was doing a lot of research, and there's one particular quote, I think, Paul, that you found that you thought was very meaningful and could help put things in perspective as we go through today's show.
Yeah, it's a quote by Pearl Buck, who was a writer back in the 30s. And I just thought this quote, to me, summarizes so much of what we try to get across. And the quote is this: every great mistake has a halfway moment, a split second when it could be recalled and perhaps remedied. Every great mistake has a halfway moment, a split second when it could be recalled and perhaps remedied. And I when I hear that quote, I just think of all the people we meet that think, well, you make a mistake, there's always a chance, there's always time to go back and fix it, right? We can always go back and fix our past mistakes. And when it comes to retirement planning, when it comes to our retirement, there is often this halfway point. There's a point in which if you go past it, you can't fix the mistakes you made. And today's show is all about that.
Paul, it's interesting. There's so many aspects of retirement that is different than people's accumulation phases of their life, where if they spend beyond their means in a particular year, well, that's okay. There's always credit I can borrow, or there's a way to resolve that, because the theory is I'll work longer, I can earn a little more, I can save a little more in the future to offset to pay for that. In retirement, this is why there's so much fear and anxiety around retirement, is because there isn't, that moment might not be a halfway moment. Right? Particularly in retirement. If halfway for retirement is 75 or 80, for most people, it's going to be too late. You've made way too many major decisions that are going to impact the rest of your life. There is no fixing. There's no working longer. There's no going back to work. I use this example in our private practice. If we build someone what we define a max income plan, there is no 5 years down the road, I need a new car, so I'm going to take out $50,000 out of my savings. Well, no, you can't go put it on credit. If you can afford it within your income stream, then you can do it. And I'm going to tell you, Paul, people are going to learn throughout this show. There's so many examples of people it really comes down to not understanding what drives success in retirement and how sensitive the levers are or aren't in retirement. And that's one of the things we talk a lot about in our 8-hour courses that we're teaching at major universities and colleges in your area. If you'd like to register, you can go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
Kirk, not to get too philosophical, but this whole topic of mistakes, just think about your own lives. I think about my life, think about your life. We all have made mistakes in our life, right? And we all can look back and say, was there one mistake we made that either made it or broke it, right? Was there something in the past that we've done that either fortunately we caught soon enough or unfortunately we didn't? And I think of my previous career as a psychologist, and I was working at a job and I was sort of just going with the flow, and I wasn't really going in the direction I wanted to, but I didn't know it. And I one day made a huge mistake at that job. At the time, I didn't realize it, but I went home and I thought about what I had done, and I realized what I had done was a big mistake. And I realized that if I didn't make a change immediately, there was no going back. I was going down a path that if I didn't turn quickly, there was a point of no return. And that day, I quit that job and made a decision to go to school and become a psychologist. And in fact, that decision, fortunately, I caught in time, because I look back and think if I didn't change course, I don't know where I would have ended up. I don't think in a good place. At the end of the day, I ended up having this wonderful career as a psychologist, doing all the things I really wanted to do to help people, which was the thing I wanted to do in the job, and I wasn't. So I think the quote by Pearl Buck applies to all of our lives, right? There's always a point in which, there's a point of no return, and we surely don't want that for the people listening to this show when it comes to the retirement.
Paul, I don't know that all of our listeners, people who've been listening to us for a while, may know this. Dr. Paul Mettler, and my name is Kirk Cassidy. Different last names, but we are brothers. Same mother, different father, but raised in the same house. We are brothers. And so we're aware of many of the mistakes and many of the pivots, properly and improperly, we've made throughout our lifetime because of our relationship being brothers. That really, at the core, is we are trying to prevent people from making a lot of mistakes at this point when they're within 5 to 10 years of retirement, or particularly early in retirement. Because it's not always your fault. It's often the advice and the information you're consuming. And that is the whole purpose of our charity, is to help you, because you can spend more money than you think, you can pay less taxes, and you can retire earlier if you just don't make some of the mistakes that most of you are going to make. So attend one of these 8-hour courses. We can help you avoid those. If you'd like to register, all you have to do is make a $29 donation to charity. Go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. Thanks for listening to the Retirement Education Hour. Be sure to follow or subscribe when listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And now, back to the show.
Getting back to our program and our topic at hand, Kirk and Paul, there is this halfway point that I think maybe we're even a little bit beyond it. As we approach retirement, we're getting ready to retire. What are some of those absolutely critical mistakes, missteps you want to avoid that are just really hard to undo?
Okay, so I was excited about this show because I think this can help put some things in perspective. Because, look, all of our listeners who listen to our shows and our podcasts and watch our TV shows and come to our classes, they're within, call it 10 years of retirement through, at least the first 10 years of retirement. So we have this segment of people, and this in our charity have been teaching these courses at universities and colleges around the country for over a decade. And we've had the pleasure to educate and teach in person in these 8-hour courses over 10,000 people, and through the airwaves and TV, hundreds of thousands of people. Now, what we track, it's hard to track the people listening through the airwaves and watching us on TV, but the people that are coming into our courses, we track all the data. And what we're consistently seeing is most of you are making, and when I say most, people are going to say, not me. I'm telling you, most of you highly educated $1 to $10 million families, you are consistently making the same mistakes and going to make the same mistakes throughout retirement. And that is the whole purpose of our classes and our charity, is to help you avoid those mistakes. Those mistakes that we're going to talk about today is specifically around income planning. You're doing it wrong. You're all going to way underspend what you otherwise could be spending. We're going to teach you and talk about that. We're going to talk about how you're approaching investing and how you are looking at risk improperly, how the entire industry is doing this wrong, how the entire industry is doing allocations of your investments and risk totally improperly. It's so off. And then legacy, when you guys hear legacy, you think of children or kids or loved ones. It's your spouse first. There's so many mistakes being done. People don't understand the impact when one spouse predeceases the other from a tax perspective, from an income perspective, from a Medicare cost perspective, especially you $1 to $10 million households. So we're going to tackle this today, Paul, and I think we should take the next couple of segments and specifically talk about income and the mistakes that you can fix before you do it. Right now, you can fix this mistake, but you're going to be paddling upstream because it's going to be, what we're going to teach you is the opposite of what everyone else wants you to do, and that makes it difficult, Paul.
You know, as I think of this show and I think of the topic, it is a very difficult thing for all of us to sort of face the fact that we are coming to a point where there's a point of no return. It is a difficult fact to look in the mirror and say, you know what, maybe what I'm doing is wrong, or maybe the path I'm going down is wrong. It's not an easy thing to do. Psychologically, it's not an easy thing to do. We all protect ourselves, want to make sure we all believe and think that what we're doing is right. And we always think there's more time, right? We always think there's another day. There's another day. Well, tomorrow I'll deal with it. Next month I'll make that change. And you don't want to create too much urgency. But the reality is, and we've seen this in meeting people in the class, we've seen people who've gone past that halfway point, who have not made the changes they need to make. And it was too late. How many times, Kirk, have you had people say to you, why didn't I take this class 10 years ago? What they're really saying to you is, you know what? If I would have known this 10 years ago, I could have made a different decision and not gone down the path I've gone. And now, sadly, there's not much I can do about it.
Paul, I'll make this guarantee right now on the radio show. And again, 10,000 people we've taught. I know what conventional wisdom, we know what conventional wisdom about retirement is. We know what the books say. I know what all the experts say. We know what your advisors are telling you. And we're telling you most of them are wrong. And we're telling you you are wrong. And so the guarantee I'll make you is, and we've been begging. I mean, I listened to myself. Just the other day, I heard myself on the radio doing our show. And I'm thinking, I was literally yelling at you guys, the listeners. I was yelling at you guys, begging you to come to the classes. There's no excuse. Wherever you're at in the country, you can stream the class live while we're teaching class in the university. But if you are close to one of the classes, you need to come in person. I'm telling you, I'll make a $2,000 donation to any charity you want. I don't care how smart, CPAs, executives at automotives, CFOs for Fortune 500 companies. I hope you're listening, all you engineers, especially you engineers, you do-it-yourselfers. I will guarantee I will make a $2,000 donation to whatever charity you want, that after you attend our class, we have not rocked your world, literally changed your whole perspective on the proper way to approach retirement, and you will recognize when you see that you need to do it another way, that you can spend often double the income you thought you could spend, that you would be able to retire often 5 years earlier than you would have, that you're going to pay significantly less taxes, and you'll have less fear as you age. There's so much about this next phase of your life that you're just getting bad information. And next segment, I'll tell you why you're getting that bad information. It's not an accident. So all we ask is a $29 donation to charity. If you make a $29 donation to our charity, we will let you attend our almost master's level 8-hour courses at the universities or stream it live. All you have to do is register at retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. Listening from outside Michigan or Missouri? We stream courses live from the university so you can attend anywhere in the country. Go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org to sign up. And now back to the show.
Back to our program today on avoiding these major mistakes that we often see people making in the approach to retirement. There are a few that deal with the world of investments. This is a critical one. Let's talk about this, Kirk and Paul, and kind of unpack what you see there.
So when it comes to investing, man, I hate, because seems to be the pattern. Anyone that's listening to us, that we come on the radio and tell you you're all doing it wrong. And the financial service industry is advising you and leading you wrong. And I'll say this every segment for the rest of the show. The financial service industry's focus is on growth of their business, making more money. And the more simplified they make their portfolios and more sales-based they make their businesses, the more profitable they are. And remember, at the end of the day, as we teach you what we teach you in our classes, at the charity's website, in our radio shows, TV shows, we'll consistently remind you, the less money that you spend in retirement, the longer you work and the less you spend, the more they make, the person managing your money makes. They have no incentive to teach you to spend more, and they have no incentive to get you to retire. The full incentive is for you to be afraid, spend less, and work longer. So think of that. Now, they all tell you, well, some will tell you can stock pick and market time. You can't. Day traders, historically, your chances of success is 1 in 100. Berkeley did a study on this. 1 in 100 beat the markets, beat the index. That's per year. So if you were that 1 in 100 this year, that means next year you again now start over, have a 1 in 100 chance of beating the market per year, beating the market, the index. Really, all you should have done 20 years ago is put all your money in the index, the S&P 500, maybe a little international index, and that was all you had to do. That's it. And you would have beaten what you have today. You'd have a lot more than you would have had today. $1 million invested 20 years ago in the S&P 500 is worth today $6.5 million. You didn't beat that. Kramer didn't beat that on TV. There's nobody that's beaten that. There's not been one mutual fund manager that's beaten that. No one, you didn't beat that. No one beats that. So first, from an investment perspective, you got it all wrong. You really have it wrong when you think about your risk tolerance at this point in your lives. There's no rule of thumb because you are 55 years old. You should have this much in stocks and this much in bonds. There is no rule. Your plan, your retirement plan, which none of you have, none of you do. Your e-money, your dials, your probability of success, none of that is not a plan. Go to our website, look at a sample plan. We do a webinar on it. We teach it in the class, what a real plan is. Without a plan, you can't choose your investments because what drives your investments is what do I need to give me what I want and when do I want it? When do I need it? So your risk tolerance is driven by when do I need specific dollars at different times. I know it sounds confusing, but what drives performance isn't your average rates of returns or what you invest in. What drives performance in retirement is going to be where you take your income from when the markets are down and where you take your income from when the markets are up. And as a result, you have to have many different types of risk tolerances and investments in your portfolio. So instead of managing your investments, you have to manage your income. I know no one has ever told you this before. It is complicated. That's why this is like an 8-hour master's level course in universities. It's not an accident. This is very complicated. So what drives performance, what you should be investing is what you need to give you what you want and when you need those dollars. Paul, I know I rambled for a while there.
No, I mean, I think really in sum what you're saying and the key to this is, planning for growth. We all need growth. We all need our money to grow. But growth during the accumulation phase of life requires very different strategies than growth in the distribution phase. And what you're saying is when you start taking money out, you still want your money to grow. But when you start taking your money out, the strategies you need to do to grow your money when you're taking money out, very different than the strategies you did while you're accumulating your wealth. And if you don't understand that difference, and you don't understand the things you have to do that are different to make sure that you don't run out of money, that's where the class comes in, because we teach people how to allocate your money when you start taking money out so that you take money from the right buckets and also continue having your money grow.
Here's an example, Paul. You nailed it. Here's an example. If you're not touching the money for 10 years, buy the S&P 500. Don't mess around with anything else. If you're not touching it for 10 years, the dollars you're going to spend in the first 5 years, ladder treasuries or use SHY or FLRN or FLOT. I'm not giving any advice. I'm just giving examples. And then years 5 through 10, there's a different strategy we talk about. Now, that's just the allocation. The meat of this, what drives the performance in retirement, is making sure that whenever we have a major market event, we are not rebalancing our portfolios. We are going to spend down our low to no risk accounts, and we have to have a pivot account to sustain any long-term, like a lost decade like we've experienced, any long-term market events, so that the portfolios that are highly risky have time to recover. And that's the key. Now, I know it sounds complicated. That's why it's an 8-hour class. This is how you can spend 6, 7, 8% withdrawal rates in retirement if you know how to manage this. So attend one of our 8-hour classes. They're taught at most major universities in your areas, or you can stream them live from the universities. Make a $29 donation to charity. Register at retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
Classes are forming now. Go to retirementplanningedu.org to register. Again, that's retirementplanningedu.org. Use the promo code PODCAST to receive 50% off your tuition. And now, back to the show.
Kirk and Paul, as we talk about income, and income is so critical to retirement planning, what are these mistakes around this area that could be really critical or upend our retirement plans?
Well, here's the biggest mistake is you all are going to underspend what you otherwise could be spending. For the majority of the people who are listening to our shows, watching our TV shows, going to the charity's website, going to the charity's 8-hour, almost master level courses at the universities, most of you have between $700,000 and $10 million saved when you retire. You are not the average baby boomer who has only saved $200,000. That's what the average baby boomer has saved. So all the general advice you're getting, the general rules are for people that have saved $200,000, and you've got 2, 3, 4, 5 million. So our fear for those people who are not average, that are above average, is that you're not going to outlive your money, that you're just going to way underspend the amount you can actually spend throughout your lifetime. Therefore, you're going to work longer than you need to. And that's exactly what the financial service industry wants you to do. The less you spend, the longer you work, the more they make. And what will drive your performance and your success in retirement is where you take your income from during different market conditions and different events. To do that properly, you have to have a lot of different type of allocation profiles, what we call them buckets and accounts, that you can pivot from to and go to back and forth during the different major market events that we're going to experience. You're going to experience through a 30-year retirement 4 to 7 major market events. Now, what you can do, you want to make this simple? You want to do what the financial service industry has been telling you to do for over 40 years? The 4% rule, William Bengen invented the 4% rule in 1994, and since then, this is all that they teach you. Take out 4% a year. You want to know why? Because now you can collaborate with your advisor. You can choose your risk tolerance. Doesn't matter what you need to give you what you want, because we know if you take somewhere between 3 and 4% out per year, which is what every calculator will tell you right now, take out 3 to 4% a year, and you're 65 years old, you've got an 80+% chance of not outliving your money. So if you say to somebody, I'm very conservative, I want to go 40% stocks, 60% bonds, it works. If you say you want to be aggressive and you're 80-20, it works. It rarely fails. So go ahead and take the simple approach and work 5 years longer and underspend what you can otherwise spend. If you want to take a more advanced approach, that's why the class is 8 hours long. If you want to take that more advanced approach, then you're going to need to understand how to manage your income from different places at different market conditions. And if you do that, starting at 60 years old, you'll be able to take out 6, 7, and every year you get old, 6, 7, 8, maybe even 9% withdrawal rates per year with a 0% chance of outliving your income. And I want to make sure people understand, I'm not saying that's what your growth rate, I can't guarantee you the growth rate of 6, 7, 8, 9%. But what I can guarantee, and we teach you, is that you could take 6, 7, 8% withdrawal rates and not outlive your income if you design your retirement plan properly, which allows you to retire earlier, Paul.
Yeah, I think that the last thing you just said needs to be said again, because I don't want people to believe that everybody could take 6, 7, 8% out and not properly take your income the way you need to take it, right? If you're simply going to have a 60-40 portfolio and you're going to take your 6, 7, 8% out every year and rebalance,
you're going to outlive your money.
You're going to outlive your money, right? So hear us when we say you can get 6, 7, 8% if you properly set up your account so that you're taking the right money, the right income from the right accounts. If you do that and understand how you do that, you can maximize your income and you can, spend as much as you want to spend. If you don't do that and you take those types of withdrawals, you're going to outlive your money. That's what we teach in the class.
Yeah, I don't want to suggest, Paul, I don't want to be irresponsible. We're telling you there's a way to do this, to take 6, 7, 8% withdrawal rates. Withdrawal rates. Forget growth. Growth is irrelevant. I know you think I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, we're going to drive performance. You're going to drive performance purely based upon having very aggressive investments, very conservative investments, and everywhere in between, making sure that you're taking your income from the right allocation, the right accounts during different market conditions, and making sure you're not just auto rebalancing like everybody is going to do. In fact, they're going to promote how we automatically rebalance your portfolios. No, you don't want anyone rebalancing anything when the market is down, not in retirement. We want to wait for the market to recover before you take money out of your aggressive accounts and put them in very conservative accounts for your short-term income. We teach this in this class. That's why there are 2 evenings, 4 hours each evening. That's one class, or a full 1-day, 8-hour class. We stream them live from the universities, and we'd highly recommend you come in person. Highly recommend. It's a lot of information. All you have to do is make a $29 donation to charity. If you'd like to register, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. To find our latest white papers and webinars, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. And remember to subscribe or follow wherever you listen to your podcasts. And now back to the show.
Mistakes around legacy planning. Kirk and Paul, set us straight here. It sounds like you're saying there are a few decisions you need to make that you can't go back on. Is that right?
Oh, gosh, there are so many right now. So first, let's establish legacy. When we're talking right now, before we're talking about your children and charities and those kinds of things, we're talking about those people who are married. Legacy begins with whomever the surviving spouse is, okay? And I'm telling you, we've taught over 10,000 people and had hundreds of thousands of listeners to our show and TV show and following our charity. We're telling you, we have the data, and you $700 to $10 million families are all making massive mistakes that will impact your surviving spouse on so many levels that we can't even cover in our radio show, but we do talk about a lot about it in the class, okay? So first, understand that when one spouse predeceases the other spouse, that surviving spouse is going to lose some income. We're going to lose at least one of the Social Securities, the lesser of the two. We might be losing some of the pension, depending on what mistake you made in your elections. That surviving spouse goes from married filing joint to single, so their taxes are going to go up. And for many of you, because of the amount of money you have in retirement accounts, taxes go up. You jump multiple brackets. And then Medicare costs, our means testing is cut in half for the surviving spouse. So your limits are half of what they were when you were married, and the cost of Medicare significantly goes up. These are all avoidable mistakes by making the right choices today for what's going to happen in the future. The problem is no one is telling you this. No one's talking. Not anyone in the financial service industry has told you this. I know this. And this is why we know we know in general, 94% of people make the wrong choice around when they take their Social Security. We know 10,000 people, teaching 10,000 people that $700 to $10 million family. Most every one of you are making the wrong choice when you're selecting the survivor benefits for pensions. You're also most of you should be taking your lump sum pensions and you don't know it. Now, if you're a lower net worth, the average baby boomer with $200,000 saved probably should be taking the pension income. But those of you who have money saved, you can buy your own pensions. So here's the thing. The mistakes you're making today by when you're taking Social Security, what pension options you're choosing, whether you take a lump sum, what life insurance or no life insurance, what annuities or no annuities, it's the wrong information and education you're getting for your demographic, that $700 to $10 million family. This is a major part of the class. Again, this is why it's 8 hours. You don't understand how the damage or the exposure, the risk you are placing on the surviving spouse.
You know, Kirk, the one, I think, and I lived through it with my father, I think one of the biggest potential consequences of not planning appropriately for legacy is one of you needs long-term care, right? What's the data, Kirk? 70% of people 65 and older will need some type of support for long-term care.
Yes, it's
if you
massive.
don't plan for this, you will, at $100,000+ now per year, if you don't plan for this appropriately, you think of the impact you're going to have on the surviving spouse who will take care of you, give you all, make sure your needs are all met, and then you pass away and what happens to them. And if you think you're going to go buy long-term care insurance, you think that's the solution, think again.
We're going to talk people out of that, hopefully, in the class from buying the long-term care insurance. But go ahead. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, no. I mean, you got to think this through, right? You got to plan for, you plan for the worst and you hope for the best if you want to avoid these mistakes. And if you don't plan for legacy appropriately, you're really going to hurt the surviving spouse.
And again, we're focusing on the surviving spouse, and Paul's right. I mean, it's greater than a 50% chance. It is almost 70%. It's way over 50% that one of you are going to need some long-term care. Right. And so we're not telling you to go run out and buy long-term care insurance. We're telling you there's other ways to approach this. And it isn't by spending less when you're younger. That isn't the answer. There are ways to approach this strategically if you know what to do and your advisors and brokers and teams aren't teaching. There's no incentive. They want you to spend as little as possible, work as long as possible. There's no incentive to help you with this. Now, legacy for your children is a whole different discussion. I mean, sincerely, a massively different discussion, which again, we cover in the class, but identifying what is really your driving focus. Is it maximum income for you and just leaving whatever's left for the children? Are you using the legacy excuse for your children not to spend because you're afraid of outliving your money? These are the questions we have to tackle in the class. This is the stuff the charity is going to expose you to and help you construct that 30-year retirement plan. We're going to teach you what it looks like. So I don't know. Again, every time I listen to myself on the radio, first of all, no one likes their voice. I can't stand my voice, honestly. But I'm yelling. Because I know we've got regular listeners on podcasts and our radio shows that I don't know what you're waiting for. Consistently, every person that comes to our class, at the end of the class, say, boy, I wish I would have came to this class when I originally heard about it. It would have changed my life. So make a $29 donation to charity. Register for one of our 8-hour courses that are taught at the major universities. Go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. Thanks for listening to the Retirement Education Hour. Be sure to follow or subscribe when listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And now, back to the show.
We're going to get back to our topic now with Kirk and Paul. Mistakes. How can we just take a kind of a sweeping action toward wiping these mistakes, hopefully off of our radar? Is there one particular thing we should be doing in general?
I think it's important for people to understand that these courses, these 8-hour courses, they're not basic financial literacy 101 here. These are really designed for those families, call it $500 to $10 million, $500 to $20 million families who have some more resources, so they have more levers to pull. They have enough resources to make sure that they are buying and utilizing the appropriate tools for whatever they need for their retirement. The problem is none of you at this point that are listening to our show should be making any investment decisions, buying any annuities, buying any life insurance, choosing any Social Security decisions, any pension decisions. You make no financial decisions until you have a plan. The plan drives everything. The plan drives your risk tolerance. I don't care how you feel about risk. It's irrelevant. It's what do you need to give you what you want, and when do you need it and want it? That drives what risk tolerance you should have for what segment of your money. It's a whole different approach. You're not going to hear it anywhere else because there is zero incentive for the financial service industry to teach you to spend more money. There's none. There is none. That's why we have hundreds of thousands of people listening to our shows and watching our TV shows, and over 10,000 people have been to our classes, our 8-hour classes. How do you avoid these mistakes? By having a comprehensive plan designed specifically for you that is your plan, because your plan will dictate what every decision you need to make going forward. There is no general rule for Social Security, no general rule for asset allocation, no general rule for pensions and lump sums. There's no general rule for life insurance and no general rules for annuities, other than I can tell you 95% of people who buy annuities have wasted your money because you bought it without a plan. I'm not hating on annuities. I'm telling you you've wasted your money because the insurance companies will beat you because you bought a product before you even know how and when you're going to use a product. That's insane. They sell you against fear. They take your fear and manipulate you to spend less. When you have a plan to know what you're going to do in every phase and every market condition, that fear is taken away. Now you have freedom and you can spend your 6, 7, 8% withdrawal rates, not outlive your income, not panic every time there's a short-term market event, retire 5 years earlier. And we didn't even get into taxes, Paul. Talk about taxes. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars of saved taxes if you know how to fill and when to fill brackets and when to take, where to take it. All that stuff, Paul. I hope people hear our passion.
Yeah, I think the mistake, again, going back to the topic here at hand, which is, there's always a halfway point, a moment where you sort of can't go back. I think what we often see is we meet people who have their investments, they have their annuities, they have their pensions because they believe they have a plan, because someone convinced them that what they have is a plan, so they go ahead and do all these things. The reality is, I will guarantee you, if you come to class, you'll appreciate this. The plan that you think you have isn't really a plan. The plan that we're talking about, comprehensive plan, tells you what kind of risk tolerance you could afford. It tells you what investments you should purchase. It tells you how to get income so that you can get your 6, 7, 8%. It informs you on every decision you make. You can't make these decisions without first having the plan. And in the class, we teach you what a plan looks like. We teach you how to build that plan. And even if you can't do it, we teach you how to find somebody who will. You got to start with the plan first. You don't start investing. You don't start taking money out. You don't start buying life insurance or long-term care insurance or annuities before you do the plan. And in the class, we show you and teach you how to do that.
I love you said that last part that I forgot to mention. I mean, that's a big part of the class. The last 45 minutes of class is how do you choose an advisor? How do you do a background check? What should the advisor be doing or not doing? How do they get paid? How to understand, are they a smaller or larger firm? What do they really specialize in or don't? Because everyone creates a perception that isn't always reality. That's the purpose of the class, is to help you find the right team to help you. And you'll be informed enough to understand the levers you should have and the approach that these people should be taking. And you'll know, do I have the right team or not? Or am I looking at the right people or not? All we ask.
And by the way, we're not feeding you. We're not giving you a dinner. Let's be clear.
No, it's a charity, and you got to make a donation to attend. It's an 8-hour class taught at Oakland University, University of Michigan, Michigan State University, Troy Ann Novi campuses, Eastern Michigan University, the University of Missouri, Columbia College. 8 hours, 2 evenings, or 1 full Saturday. We stream them live, and you can attend in person and should attend in person if you can. Please register at retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
Retirement Education Foundation is a fiscally sponsored program of United Charitable, a registered 501c3 public charity. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any insurance discussed in this show is backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Retirement Education Foundation is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Retirement Education Foundation. This radio show is paid for by the Retirement Education Foundation.